seniors today. My name is Pat Mathis. Now, normally we have Betty Cornett here with me, but she's usually out on a trip somewhere, so we have today with us Dr. Jerry Goff. Welcome, Jerry.
Oh, thank you, Pat. You know, we all miss Betty.
We do.
But I'm kind of glad she's gone. I'm glad to be here, yeah.
So when Betty's gone, Jerry gets to be with me, so he likes that.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I like that.
That's great.
You know, it's fun because Betty is such a live wire. We miss her.
Oh, yes.
But I'm
She's
glad.
the talker of the two of us, you know.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. Well, me and her. Her and, she's the talker, and I sit and listen a lot.
Have you ever told her that?
Of course, I tell her all the time.
Oh, do you really? And she just laughs it off, doesn't she?
She laughs it off, that's right.
Yeah, she's a ball of energy.
And you're the talker, too, so we might have to let you talk today.
I don't know about that. We'll do it together, okay? But it's great to be back on Seniors Today and be here at WATC.
Yeah, exactly. But we want to tell who's here with us today, and that's Larry Ferguson.
Oh, yes.
And he has a great story to tell, and he also has a lot to talk about because he was the manager of Dottie Rambo.
A great personality in gospel music.
Exactly. And, of course, Dottie passed away, but he's going to tell us all about that. But right now, we're going to go to that wonderful person, Dottie Rambo, and this was back in Greenville, South Carolina, whenever this was recorded, and this was in the 1990s. And she's going to sing Glory in the Cross.
Boast not of works or tell of good deeds, for naught have I done to merit His grace. All glory and praise shall rest upon Him so willing to die in my place, and I will glory in the cross, in the cross, lest His suffering all be in vain, and I will weep no more for the cross that He bore, but I will glory in the cross. My trophies and my crowns and my robe that was so dirty and stained with sin, that was really everything I had to lay at His feet. And He knew that I was unworthy to sit down and eat from His table, the table of life, Jimmy. But His love, my God's love, made provision for a little old Cherokee lady like me. And I get happy every time I sing. I will glory in the cross, lest His bleeding brow and His open side, His broken heart, all totally be in vain. Never, never, never will I weep anymore for that old rugged cross he chose and he bore. But I will glory in the cross. I will weep no more for the cross that he bore, but I will glory in the cross. Hallelujah. I will glory in the
Now that was Dottie Rambo singing back in the 1990s, Jerry.
Boy,
that was
she
a long
could
time
do
ago.
it. Yeah, but she could do it.
She
You
could.
know, I traveled with, when I say with them,
Yes.
our groups traveled together a lot.
Yes,
We did a
that's right.
tremendous amount of concerts together. And Dottie was a singer and she was a writer.
Yes,
She
exactly.
could do both.
Yes.
And she could bring her songs alive to a congregation,
could.
to an auditorium. She could.
Absolutely.
And you know, I don't know where a lot of people realize it or not, but people that were raised where she was raised,
Yes.
in the hard times of Kentucky,
That's right.
they write and sing. You know, there's Dottie, who is probably one of the
Yes.
foremost one.
Right.
Then you've got Gerald Crabb in that same, he writes that same style. Larry Petrie writes, and you could go on.
Mm-hmm.
They were raised in hard times.
Mm-hmm.
Music was their source of joy and inspiration
And the coal
happiness.
miner's daughter.
Oh,
Think about that.
hey, and they were raised in that same.
That's
and
right.
so their songs spoke of victory over what life has to offer.
That's right.
Boy, I could go on there. Yeah.
Well, let's welcome Larry Ferguson.
Thank you
Hi,
so
Larry.
much.
Good to see you again.
Good seeing you. I've always been a fan of both of you, and
Well, thank you.
and love working with you guys
Well, it's
over
good
the
to
years.
have you here so you can tell us a little bit about yourself
Well,
and to
thank
tell us how you came to be with Dottie Rambo. So talk a little bit about yourself.
Well, how I got to be with Dottie, actually, I was a Southern Gospel concert promoter originally, since I was a teenager. And I would help, you know, the promoters that had a little money, you know, I would help them, or churches even, you know, that, because I just loved the music.
Yes.
And my dream, though, was when I started, I brought in more of the legends.
But did you live in Kentucky?
Yes, Louisville, Kentucky.
See?
I'm sorry,
He's from
I let that.
Kentucky.
Yeah,
Yep, another
Louisville,
Kentuckian.
Kentucky.
Yes.
And I did legends when I brought mine in, like Jake Hess and Dottie. Finally, I got Dottie.
Yes.
It took me a while to get her because she had kind of. Because of all the back surgeries and things that
Yes.
she had went through, she had kind of not done as much. She was doing more television. And I finally got her, and it was the biggest thing I'd ever done or the city had seen as far as Southern gospel music or gospel music, period.
Did you have this in an auditorium? Where did you have it?
We actually had it in a church,
Okay.
the first one. In Louisville, the auditoriums in the more current years and last 25 or 30, they don't do as well in the auditoriums, but in churches they do really well. And we have so many large churches in Louisville, and Jerry's played a lot of them, I know, that we could. They did better. People felt better
Well, going
coming
back
to
to
church.
your early years, when you were a teenager,
Yes.
what drew you to Southern Gospel and Dottie? What drew you to that music?
You know, I've always been an older soul, I think. And
Really?
Yeah, I really, since I was a little kid, I loved being around my grandmothers and my grandparents. And I actually felt awful because I did not like Christian music when I got saved. I loved the hymns we sang in church.
Yeah.
But that was when contemporary Christian was just really busting the walls. And we didn't have a Southern Gospel radio station, so I never heard Southern Gospel or.
What was your
and
first experience to hearing Dottie?
That's what turned me on to it. I had a little job at night. I stayed with an elderly lady just in case she needed help in the middle of the night, you know. She was like
Yeah.
a grandmother to us.
Yeah.
And she watched TBN every night. She wanted to see what color bow Jan had in her hair. Honest truth. Honest truth. She thought Jan was the most beautiful woman she ever saw. And I was a young kid, never even heard of TBN.
So the Southern Gospel was on that station?
Well,
then?
Dottie came on.
Okay.
And I remember so vividly because of the name Rambo. I thought, now,
Yeah.
ooh, boy, she probably gets teased over that name. And I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I'd never heard any of the songs. We sang every word with her. She got the guitar out and she was singing. And we had a visitation. I mean, it was church in there. And she and I, we never did that ever, and we would say to each other all the time, wouldn't it be great if that lady with that name Rambo came back on there one night and we could have a night like that again? And I just went everywhere until I found her records. We didn't
really?
have the internet and all that back then. And so I fell in love with her. She was my first experience. That's why I was so heavy to have her when I was promoting.
Was it her style, her music words, her musical form, or her person? What attracted you so strongly to her?
I think it was all of that.
Oh,
I
all the
really
above,
do.
huh?
I think the songs, of course, they just pierce your heart and speak to you.
Oh,
She
yes.
wrote songs like that.
But she communicated a song
Yes, she
really
does.
well.
All of that.
She's a great singer, but a great communicator. And it was like she was in your living room, forget the television, she was sitting like you and I are. That's what it
She was
felt
good at
like.
that. She was
and
good.
and there was no pretense. And a lot of times, when we hear some singing that's more commercial at the time or whatever, a lot of times to a new Christian or a kid, they think, well, that's kind of corny and hokey, because they haven't grown in the Lord yet or whatever. And a lot of times we've been guilty of creating some songs that aren't that deep and meaty, as you know. But Dottie didn't write that way. She wrote every bit as great as any. Dolly Parton once said to me, she says, I want you not to say Dottie is the best gospel songwriter. I want you to say she is one of the best writers because she's comparable to anybody in any genre.
Well, Dottie
you were.
Dottie started out actually in country music.
Yes.
She started in country music.
She did, yes.
And she
Until
left
she got
home.
saved, yeah.
Well, what happened was she was doing country music, and her father
Yes.
loved country music.
In the Grand Ole
So-
Opry.
so
East
when it-
Tennessee. I mean, East Kentucky.
Yes.
Yes, in Kentucky. But when she was about 14 years old,
12.
was she 12 years old? She was saved. I do remember reading this. She was saved, and she wanted to sing gospel music.
Yes.
And her father did not like that at all, Jerry. So he did not want her to sing gospel music.
No, he told
At
her,
all.
he said, you have a choice. Now, you also have to remember, she was already on local television, had her own little local radio show,
And she'd been
playing country music, walking
at
the
12
floor.
years old, she'd been on country music.
Yeah,
I mean, on the
about 10 or 11, she would already been doing that and playing little fairs and electric guitar and all that.
in the Grand Ole Opry.
Well, she hadn't made it to the Opry, but she learned to play the guitar through listening to the Opry.
Okay.
And but she was singing those songs on the local radio and everything. When one of the gentlemen that worked at the radio station, he had a show. He was an evangelist that played guitar, and of course she could tear a guitar up. And he said, I want you to come hear me. I'm going to be at this church, or he was trying to win her, And she says, sure, I'll go. And she went. She got saved that night.
Loved that
And
music.
she said, this is it. I'm going, I can't sing Christian music anymore. I mean, country music anymore. And her father was just livid.
Yes.
And he said, he eventually told her at 12 years old, he says, you're going to sing country music or you're going to get out of my house.
Really?
Yes,
And she left
did.
home at 12 years old.
She did.
And went to a church in Indianapolis. And I met some people that were at that first service she
Yes.
had. And she never went home again.
No.
She went from church to church to church.
She did.
Since 12 years old. And then later she got married, And
Well, let me ask
Well,
you
she
about
got
some of her
married young.
songs.
yeah.
Go ahead.
You know, of all the songs that she, of course, she's such a songwriter.
Yes.
And you'll probably know the answer to this, but you know, songs like "He Looked Beyond My Faults and Saw My Needs,"
Oh, yes.
"We Shall Behold Him,"
Yes,
you know
yes.
that, "Sheltered in the Arms of God." Of the songs that she has written, and you know, probably know the 100, what has been her biggest song?
Well, as far as biggest money-making song.
Well, either way, popularity-wise, I'm thinking about.
Popularity, I would say. To be honest, I would say it would be "I Go to the Rock,"
Yes.
and "We Shall Behold Him," and "He Looked Beyond My Faults." Those three. Money-making wise, "I Go to the Rock." "We Shall Behold Him," and "He Looked Beyond My Faults" would be kind of the next two, I would say, because they're very popular in the inspirational world and also the black church. And then Southern gospel, and then, you know, of course, Sandy Patty had the anthem with that, yeah. And so, you
That
know,
got Sandy Patty on the Tonight Show.
yes, and she sang it for President Bush, I think the first Bush's inauguration, and People magazine said, "This song is evergreen," and you know, it's always going to be here. And one of the newscasters, he's famous, I can't remember who it was at the time, he says, "I don't know what just happened, but something special just happened with that song that lady sung." You know, because they weren't as familiar, secular world. And back then, it was a little better time. We could do gospel music on television a little easier than now on secular television. You know, they're a little iffy about some of that now.
Let me interrupt you again. As you started to manage Dottie,
Yeah.
how did that come to be that you became her manager? And what, in this sense of the word, what does that mean to say you managed Dottie?
Well, after I booked her a few times on concert for me, I started booking her, you know, helping her out and booking some dates and getting her back kind of known, because I just loved her, and I wanted everybody to love her. And these were her best dates, and you know, that she was doing. She didn't know that people still would come out for her like they did, you know, in the early days.